Hello, and welcome back to the DayLuna podcast with your host, Dana and Shayna. Today, we are having on a special guest. Sam is here to talk about spiritual business, mindset, new paradigm of business, female entrepreneurship. And I'm into this conversation. It was really fun. We actually get to dive into some downloads from Egypt because she just went to Egypt as well, which I thought was a really cool synchronicity. So, this is a really juicy episode, kind of all about that new paradigm of business and weaving ancient wisdom and mindset work and embodiment into providing for ourselves and showing up and being able to be seen in the world so that we can be resourced as we share our life purpose.
Yes. So Samantha is a spiritual business and mindset coach. She's a certified past life regression practitioner and a top podcast host from New York. Her journey into the world of self development began after she graduated college and decided to take the untraditional path by turning down her corporate job offers and moving to Europe. She gets all into that story in this podcast, which I found really interesting because she has a really defined spleen and she's a sacral manjan and she really listens to her authority, which is incredible. So now as a professional coach, she helps women all over the world rewire their subconscious minds, build successful businesses, attract love and money, and manifest their dreams by empowering them with elite mindset tools and powerful daily rituals.
Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome on our special guest for the day, Samantha Daily. Sam, we are so excited to have you here on our podcast since we just got to connect with you recently on your podcast. So, welcome and thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I know I was just saying, long time no see. We've been chatting a lot lately, digging into all the things. I love it. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes. Awesome. We're excited too. And looking more at your human design chart, we just feel like what you're doing is so aligned for you. I mean, for all the listeners, Sam is a manifesting generator, sacral authority, 5-1 with the left angle cross of identification, which, as it sounds, is all about identifying what resources and things we need to really support our success overall and being really good at helping people find mental clarity, mental stability so that they can really move forward in their path. And I just feel like there's a lot of ways that I see you exemplifying that. And I feel like you're just so good at identifying things in general. So I'm excited to have this conversation and to dive in a bit more. But I'd love to just start out with having you introduce yourself to our audience. Like, I'd love for you to share a bit about all it is that you do and share and teach.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to hear you talk more about that because I'm like, okay, now
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. What does that mean?
Yeah. I have more questions.
Yeah, I have follow-up questions, please. No, but thank you so much. Yeah, so I primarily right now work with female entrepreneurs who are building personal brands in the online space, who really want to master their marketing and their messaging and lean into this kind of CEO identity to take control of their lives and reach their highest potential. That's kind of my biggest mission in life. And that was really affirmed to me when I traveled to Egypt, which I know you guys have done the whole ancient Egypt pilgrimage situation. So we can definitely connect on that as well. But yeah, when I was in Egypt, that like came through to me in the form of a medicine man, just kind of like really confirming that that was my soul's destiny in this lifetime, that I've obviously lived many lifetimes and, been a priestess of Hathor in Egypt, but that really my purpose now is to bring this wisdom to women specifically and help women fulfill their highest potential. So I know that sounds kind of like pie in the sky, but I'm sure your listeners are the type of people that are like, no, trust me, we get it, girl. So like on paper, what I do is, yes, it's like business consulting for female entrepreneurs, but I feel that there's so much more depth to the true mission behind that of really desiring to help women unlock that full potential and create the most juicy, decadent, memorable, fulfilled version of their lives that's possible for them with all of these tools that we have access to, along with, the ancient wisdom and spirituality, and of course, the strategy behind how we make money online. But yeah, it's really this fusion of where strategy meets spirituality so that we can fulfill that mission.
Wow. I don't know if you know, we just got back from Egypt
I
and
saw when I was looking at your guys' page before we recorded for my show, I saw that you had done a retreat of some kind, it looked like in Egypt.
yeah.
And I was like, I might ask them about that on my show, but we got into so many things we just didn't have time. But yeah, I'm sure it was wild for you because it was definitely wild for us.
Yeah, so wild. And I love that you had that clarity drop in and just reaffirm probably a lot of the things that you had already felt, but give you that direction and that just kind of nudge to fully dive in and keep going and share your gifts. That's incredible. Um, you're so articulate, and I love how you can just tell, like, from your first little intro, like, how smart you are and how you can
You.
just kind of synthesize things, together, and I'm sure that you're doing that for your clients and, helping them have that clear message and that clear branding and those strategies and everything like that. Um, I'm curious to ask, I know that you in on your podcast, we talked a bit about your journey, and I don't know if you know, but you have this very storyteller energy in your body graph, which kind of like the TED Talk energy, we like to
Nope.
say, where it's really helpful for people to go on your journey and understand like what you've experienced and what you've learned and um the lessons along the way. And so I'm curious if you could just share a bit about that journey of like not knowing what you were going to do, maybe your journey through figuring out having your own business and really trusting yourself, because being that sacral generator with a really defined spleen, self-trust is huge for you. And it's not really modeled that many places in the collective of putting your intuition first before your mind. And this makes sense. And this is what my parents want, or this is what my colleagues think. Really putting your intuition or your instincts ahead of that. I think we're moving in that direction where more and more people are open to doing that. But it's really helpful to have examples and stories to help people feel less alone in that journey of kind of going on out on a limb and really just trusting their body, we would say in human design, but trusting their intuition or their instincts over their mind and like the collective noise.
Mm. Yeah, when I first discovered human design and I kind of learned about sacral authority and what that really meant and that feeling and how you have that kind of gut response of knowing if something is right for you or not, my whole life kind of like made sense to me in retrospect of so many of the decisions that I had made. But I think before I had the language or the understanding around human design or sacral authority, I probably would have just chalked it up to like confidence or maybe stubbornness, like just always kind of like wanting to get my way or like doing what I want no matter what other people think, which could also be like parts of the equation as well. But I do think that it's definitely been a, a storyline thread through my life that I've led with that intuition of like I'm going to do what I want to do no matter what other people think of this, and it doesn't mean that I'm immune to like other people's opinions. um Obviously it hurts when the people around you don't agree with the choices that you want to make and you wish that they always agreed and supported you, but I think sacral authority has allowed me to be like move past that, to like to feel that resistance, to feel that pain of like, oh, that's such a bummer that they don't see the same vision that I see, but to do it anyways, right? Which sounds kind of selfish, but I think that's making choices like that are the things that have led me to where I am today in life. So I would never take it back. And I'm so glad that I wasn't the type of person that wanted to live for everybody else. So yeah, like the journey to becoming a business owner started long before I had anything to sell, right? And it was really about that first initial leap of faith that I took when I was studying abroad in Spain as a 21-year-old and I accidentally fell in love with this guy who was like from Spain, lived in Spain. And I was like, this is really inconvenient. That we live on two separate continents, but we really just, I don't know, there was just this magic between us. I think it was a time in my life where I was so carefree. I didn't have any responsibilities. I had nothing to worry about. And I think that's what made me magnetic to calling in my person at that time, too. Like people talk about manifesting their partners and such. And so I didn't make a list. I didn't sit down and say, I want to attract a partner. I was just really living in my most aligned, authentic energy. I'm also a Sagittarius. I had always wanted to travel, and that like wasn't really available to me as a kid. Like we didn't do any types of international travel. So this is my first time in Europe, and I just like I felt like I was taking a bite out of life. Like it felt so exciting to just be able to see the world and to run around Europe. And so I was like, I want to do an experience and feel everything here while I can. So my friends and I, who I was studying abroad with, I didn't know them. I met them there. I went by myself. This is very much me. Like, I don't know anyone. I'm going to go on my own. I'm going to live with a host family, immerse myself in a language that I can't totally speak. Hopefully, I'll figure it out. We'll get along. Like, just really taking those risks and flying by the seat of my pants, but doing what I knew was going to be right for me. And so my friends that I made at the time through that program were like, "Oh my gosh, should we get on a dating app?" Because Tinder was like brand new. This is 2015. We weren't really using it in the US because we were all in college and it just wasn't really the thing that we were doing. But that's how I like connected with this guy. And we met in person and we had the worst first date of our lives. It was so bad. The communication was so rocky. We could barely talk to each other. It was like I I was like, "Oh my gosh, she probably thinks that like I led him on to believe that I was better at speaking Spanish than I was because we were communicating via like text, like WhatsApp for like a while. And you can
Mm.
process, you can think about what you're writing, you can run it through a translator. And then I showed up in person. Obviously, imagine going on a first date in like a language that you're like trying to learn. Like I was so nervous. So anyways, we were like I was like, this guy thinks I'm a total idiot. This is like so bad. So he dropped me off at the end of that date and he dropped me back off at my host family's house and he just parked the car and he just said, ciao. And I got out of the car. Like, and so I was like, well, that's that. Like, he's never talking to me again because that was really bad. And the ending was ciao. So I really thought I was never going to see him again. But over the next like 3 months while I was there, like we kept going on dates. He messaged me and he was like, when are you going to be back in Madrid? I want to see you again. I was like, what does this guy see in me? Like, we can barely talk. But things got better and we like, I don't know, like we warmed up to each other, we connected and so we kind of had this thing going. But obviously it had to end when my study abroad was ending. And I really thought at that point that I would never see him again. So we kind of said goodbye and it was sad. And my plan was to go no contact and not really talk to him from that point forward because we were 21. We lived in different continents. I just needed to move on with my life. It was unrealistic to expect that that was going to be a relationship of any kind. And so that was really what it was. But over the next couple of months that summer, we stayed in contact and he was like, I can't imagine a version of my life where I don't get to see you again. And so he came to visit me. And then we're like, okay, like, I guess we're doing this. We're in a long distance relationship. So I finished my last year of school. And that was when I took like the biggest leap of faith of my life, which was I'm actually not going to get a job out of college. I, did all the applications, I did the interviews, I got offered a job like at the table at the interview. I knew that they loved me. And I told them that I needed some time. And that time was me trying to figure out arrangements for how I was going to move to Spain and if that was going to work. And when I figured it out and I knew that I could do it, I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're declining the job offers. You only live once, like do it for the story. And everyone thought I was, being naive, I guess I would say is probably the biggest thing because they knew that I was really going there for the guy that I had, that I was falling in love with. And they were right. And I kept trying to like convince people like, no, it's also because I want to like get fluent in Spanish and like travel more, which was also true, but it was mainly for the guy. Right. But I had to like face, my entire family standing around the kitchen table telling me like, we think this is a dumb idea. And me just in my heart knowing that it didn't really matter what they said because I already decided. Like I was secretively doing interviews. I was driving from Ohio to Chicago by myself secretively doing these interviews for English teaching programs so that I could get like a job that would give me a visa to move to Spain. And I wasn't telling anybody about that. Like no one in my family knew I was doing that. Like they didn't know that I was doing this until it was already locked in. And I was basically like, well, I'm going. So, and I think, yeah, that's probably the biggest moment in my life or the first kind of like big moment where I really had to lean into what do I want to do? And am I going to regret it more if I ignore this signal that my body is giving me that this is the right choice? And so yeah, we're still together today. We're getting married in less than a year, so it's happy ending.
I love it. And it's such an amazing example of how in your body, in your gut for you, since you're sacral authority, like you just know, and it doesn't make any sense. And also, you're a 5-1 profile, which means that people really project onto you what they think you are, what they think you should be. I feel like as you're hearing that story back, I can see a lot of moments where people were really projecting onto you. And like a lot of 5-1s, when they go into a job interview, people are like, this is the perfect person. She's going to fit her right away. Like, we want to hire her. And whether that's right for you or not, like there can just be so much extra external pressure and expectations from other people. And being so radically authentic about what you know in your body, even if it makes zero sense to your mind, even if you have to disappoint people and break their expectations, like that really is the path. And I love that it set you up for everything else. Like, you know, everything else in life kind of unfolds naturally when you're operating from a big decision in alignment. Like, I feel like people look at, how do I change my whole entire life? And I really feel that it's one decision at a time. When you make one really true, authentic, aligned decision, other things sort of fall into place. You naturally are in that right place to receive the right inspiration, the right opportunities, like when you make that one big next decision correctly. So I'd love to hear, like, how did that moment bring you into wanting to start a business? Did you study business in school? And where does going to Egypt and getting this download about what you're doing now play into the story? I'm really curious to hear like the lead up to that and maybe more about your experience in Egypt getting that download.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that the whole thing kind of spans 8 years. So
Okay.
we'll go step by step. But so I made the decision, decline the corporate job offers, moved to Spain for the guy. And I ended up living there for another like 6.5 years. So we do live in the US again now. We moved back here and bought a house down in South Florida. So that's where we've been for the past couple of years. But I was living in Spain for 6.5 years. And like you said, I think like you're totally right. It's the butterfly effect, right? Of like how one thing just impacts the whole rest of the journey. And I like to think of them as like breadcrumbs, like when you get those like gut feelings or the nudges from the universe or this kind of knowing, this calling, this pull, this feeling that you should do something or you should go somewhere or you should talk to this person or you should say yes to this opportunity. When you get those breadcrumbs and you start to pick them up, no matter how small or random or like insignificant they might seem at the time, it truly does set you up for the next one and the next one and the next one, which is all kind of like leading you to your destiny ultimately of where you're meant to go. And so that definitely was the case for me of making the choice to move to Spain because once I got there and I was living there full time, I really went on this like deep personal healing journey. I was working through like body image stuff, mindset stuff, trying to figure out how to like really love myself. I started practicing yoga again. I learned how to meditate. I was using affirmations for the first time in my life. I was like doing the cheesy thing of like putting the affirmations on the mirror and practice like I think we all remember the first time we ever tried to say like I love you to ourselves and you just like wanted to cringe and die. Like that was like that phase of my journey. It was like right when I moved back to Spain was when all of that was like unraveling and taking place for me. And I was working these jobs where I wasn't making a lot of money, like I was barely making ends meet, but I was happy because again, I was in alignment. Like I was following my heart. I was living my dream. Like in Europe, I was sharing a flat with 9 other roommates, which was absolutely insane. No dishwasher, tiny European fridge. Um, it
Wow.
was freaking insane. It was so insane. But I was like so happy to be there. Like I was so happy that I was in the same city as the guy that I was falling in love with and that I could travel and do things and it just felt like a blessing, not a burden. And so the more that I went on that personal healing journey, the more that like my life started to change and bigger opportunities started falling into my lap. I got this amazing internship with a pretty big influencer who was running retreats in Bali and Greece and they were flying me out and I was helping to coordinate these retreats and I was getting to work in this space that was more in alignment with all the things that I was loving like mindset, manifestation, yoga. I was like this is the fucking dream. I wasn't making any money. It was totally unpaid, but I was like I'm getting my foot in the door. So I would work 3 jobs. I was doing everything that I could just to get the experience and allowing myself to believe that by saying yes to each of those small breadcrumbs, it was going to end up somewhere. It was going to lead me somewhere. And so one of the girls that I actually met on one of those retreats that I was helping to host by getting hired for that unpaid internship I stayed in touch with her and she told me that she was going to do this coaching certification for like life purpose coaching. And I was like, that sounds kind of cool. I want to do one. So I did a life coaching certification. And then I came home for a summer and I did my yoga teacher training. And it was all these little things that like led me down the path of starting to guide other people through what I had been learning and how it was like opening up all these opportunities for me. I ended up writing an ebook and then I was like, I think I could coach people like through this process of what's like in this ebook that I've made. So I coached the first 7 women, several of which like I'm still close with and friends with today. This is so many years ago. It's so funny to think back on. And then after that first round of coaching 7 women, I was like, I think I have something here. Like, I think I could like turn this into something. Right. So this is probably like 2018, 2019. And so I knew that I needed money because I needed to hire a business coach to figure out because I was so in love with the work, but I was like burnt out at that point from working all my other jobs and coaching 7 women one on one for 12 weeks nonstop. So I was like, I got to figure out how to scale this thing and make turn this into something. So um, I knew that I had to find the money somewhere. So I reached out to my dad and I was like, Dad, I have this vision for a business. Like, I need you to be an investor. I have to hire a coach. So, virtually from Spain, he was in the US, obviously. We got on this call where he was like, it's going to be like Shark Tank. Like, you have to pitch yourself to me. So, I built out this pitch deck and he showed up to the call in a suit. And I literally had to like prove myself and essentially like show here's the women that I've helped. These are the results that they've gotten. Here's the $2,000 that I've made so far, which I thought was really good at the time. I was like so proud of myself. And so my dad became the first investor into what would become my company, Samantha Daily. And that helped me really start to learn from experts and leverage how to build this life and mindset coaching business. And I ended up scaling that to multiple 6 figures. And then so many of the women that were, getting transformations with me were also having that illumination moment of like, oh my gosh, there's such a deeper purpose for my life. I want to like make this career change, or I want to turn this into a business. I want to do something. So it naturally just kind of started to be business coaching. And that's sort of like the cliff notes of how we've gotten to where we are today, of course, over, many years. Um, but Egypt happened last year, so 2024. And I actually went, funnily enough, with one of my original business mentors. She felt the calling to gather a group of women and go on this 11-day pilgrimage through ancient Egypt, studying the feminine archetypes. And yeah, I think it was for me like the point that I told you earlier about how the medicine man had kind of confirmed for me the purpose of my life. I think so often it's easy to downplay the work that we're doing or to be like, are we all just like making things out to be important that like don't actually matter? Like, like business consulting, human design, like whatever it is, whatever your business is, I think sometimes we can minimize like the importance of that. So the biggest thing in receiving that validation was like, it's so much bigger than just like what you're posting on Instagram, right? Like there actually is a much deeper spiritual thread. But of course, the way that that's carried out has to match the world and the society that we live in today. So although day to day, when I'm talking about marketing and messaging and strategy with my clients, it might not feel like deep spiritual work. Like in a way, it kind of is, right? And so receiving that affirmation of what I'm here to do, again, looking back, just kind of like connected all the dots of like, of course, like it wasn't just a coincidence that all of these things happened and lined up and these people were put in my path, like that business mentor who years and years later was going to gather a group of women to go to Egypt, and that I would see it and be like feeling the call. Like it all happens for a reason. It's all those breadcrumbs. So I think that was probably the biggest thing.
Wow. I just love hearing and like walking through your story and all of the different pieces. I know that everybody listening, I feel like I just watched a movie of your life, but um it's really interesting, that question. I've been sitting with that a bit too of like, does if everything is nothing and nothing is everything, like is it's
What are
just
we
all
doing?
negates
What the
itself
hell are
out,
we
right?
doing
Like
here?
Literally. Like
literally.
sometimes I'm like, stressed out about like I have to post to like Instagram stories or something. And like those are the moments where you're like, what are we doing? Is this my job? This is so weird. Like it's so easy to like zoom out and be like, whoa, this is like so meta, but like it matters.
I know it does.
Mm.
And ultimately, what we're here to be doing, whether we realize we're doing it or not, is contributing to consciousness and the collective consciousness. Everything that we learn, everything that we see, teach, every conversation that we have, we're contributing to that collective consciousness that's evolving over, the eons of however long consciousness has been around, right? So right now we're in this era, or this programming, if you will, where we have, technology is really booming and coming to the forefront, and it's the way in which we are sharing our consciousness. It's the vehicle that we're all sharing our consciousness with one another, and it's helping us to grow our consciousness, to grow in a way that is can only be done through technology, right? Like there's other ways that we've done it in the past, where it's through, our bodies, and through, dance and movement, and only in your small little tribes or communities. And so it's like, okay, I'm here now in this technological age. Everything is growing and it's so fast and I can barely keep up. But even just you having that thought alone is contributing to consciousness. So it's like there's nothing too small to be worthy of like doing or thinking
Mm.
or having the conversation, right? Like it all matters. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if everything matters and nothing matters, 'cause it's all the
Then does my
same
Instagram
thing.
story really matter? Back circling
Like,
back around.
yes. Yes, it does. And also, but if it's exhausting you and if it's out of alignment, then it's like, well, in this lifetime, you're here to listen to your body, to enjoy your time here. And how can you do that, right? We like to use human design to really align with joy and purpose, and that feeling of playing life's game, if you will, with alignment and what's the word I'm looking for? Like groundedness. But there's so many other modalities that help you do that. And it's really about what is bringing meaning to your life right now. Like, is human design real? Is whatever, astrology real? Or all of these different modalities that can really help you understand yourself. And it's really that question of like, does this bring meaning to my life? Does this make me feel like I'm um myself, and that I'm getting to have an impact in a way that isn't out of my control, but it's really empowering? I think those are like the questions that really fascinate me, because there's just so much, and there's so much that we don't know, especially with AI and like so many things coming out, that it's like, okay, let's just enjoy it. Let's have fun. Let's explore. And if we can enjoy life along the way, whether that's because of finances, whether that's because of success or travel or our relationships, like let's do it. And for everyone, that's going to be so different based on our karmic, lessons that we're meant to have. But I'm curious, how does your fiance um feel about all of this like more spiritual stuff, and the work that you do? Is he kind of called to that realm too, or is it like totally different?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we met when we were so young, right? So
Yeah.
we're 21 years old. Like we're very unconscious, if you will. I think most people are when they're 21, except for, I mean, nowadays with, like you
Now
said,
it's crazy.
the acceleration of the dissemination of consciousness and knowledge through technology, like, wow, like some of these like kids, they're so on it. They're like 19 and they're like, I don't drink. I do all the wellness things. Like they're spiritual.
Yeah.
They're what I'm like, wow. Okay. Well, I was, doing keg stands. So
Yeah.
bit of a different journey. Um, but yeah, we met when we were so young. So it's fascinating to think about how many different versions of ourselves we've become in the, decade of us knowing each other. Cause I think your 20s are such a formative time of life. And there's so much transformation and upheaval and changes in who you are and belief systems and even just like where we live, like moving across continents and just lots of change. So, the reason that I think we've been able to stay together is the fact that we're both very curious, very open-minded individuals. So in terms of like the spiritual side of things, like he's always been open and curious. But he obviously grew up in a Catholic country and like identifies a lot with that. But he's also inspired me a lot in that kind of faith journey of like finding my way back to God and learning what that looks like for me. And so I love that our openness has complemented each other, but we've never felt like we needed to force the other person to like be in the same boat or like do exactly what we're doing. So, and because of like, the personal development work that I was doing, I knew like if I want to enroll him in the vision of all of these things that I'm like doing and believing, I just have to be the example, right? Like be the lighthouse. And then people will get curious about the work that you're doing. And so that was always kind of the approach that I took. I never wanted to try to tell him what to think or what to believe or try to make him get curious or listen to this podcast, read this book. Like I didn't really do any of that stuff. I would just tell him, "Oh my god, like I read this thing and it was so fascinating." Or he would just see me doing stuff and then, I went from being this broke English assistant to running a seven-figure business. I mean, like the proof in the work that you're doing is all that people really need eventually to be like, "Can I get some of that?" Like whatever you're doing over there seems like it's working. And so, along that journey, he would definitely do certain things with me, like certain little like rituals or like manifestation stuff. Like he was getting into it. And this vice versa. Like I started going to church. Like I wanted to do these other things. So I think we're just open, curious, spiritual people, but in our own kind of like individual ways.
Mm.
I love that. Yeah, it's so fascinating how like your growth and evolution journey can be harmonious with all aspects of your life. I'm talking about business and relationships and friendships. Like I think that the new paradigm of business is a place where everything is interconnected. We are whole in our lives. So the growth and evolution that we do gets, reflected in every aspect of our lives, and we don't have to sever like one part of ourselves in order to make things work. And I feel like, that's been a place that people are wanting to move away from in their careers because so many of us are growing on an individual spiritual level, but maybe we've severed off our relationship or we've severed off our career. And so we have like these different compartments of our lives. And in one place, we feel really expansive, like we're rising and growing. And in other places, we feel like there needs to be this separation for some reason. And a
Yeah.
lot of that is by design societally, like our corporations and our capitalistic sort of like work structure has really kind of taught us to not bring our full uniqueness, our full genius, and our full problem solving. Like we've really been taught to play small and fit in a box. But I think that the world is just so completely ready for this new paradigm of business where we get to evolve on a spiritual level. And that gets to be a part of our relationships, a part of our business, a part like everything that we do gets to be a reflection of our wholeness. And that kind of brings me to something I wanted to ask you about. Going to Egypt, I really resonate with being a priestess in the Hathor kind of energy. And so I think it's just so fascinating how in past lives, perhaps we were literally priestesses doing healing in temples. And in this lifetime, we are guiding business. How interesting is that change? But also, for me, it really makes sense that we're bringing in these divine feminine wisdom codes into business, into the way that we exchange money, into our power structures, into the way that we make impact in the world, the way that we provide for ourselves. But I'm curious to ask you, when you think about that, all of us here have been drawn to this realm of like female entrepreneurship and soul purpose, like all being interconnected. Where do you see that like ancient wisdom and spiritual essence weaving itself into business in the future that we're moving into?
Yeah, such a good question. It's so interesting how, well, the term is thrown a lot around a lot, right? Of like light workers, like speaking a lot to women who are light workers. And I don't, I don't think that I ever felt like I'm a light worker. Like that, I didn't really like identify with that language. But then you do something like this intense pilgrimage for 11 days through all the ancient sacred sites of Egypt. And you have these wild revelations and these crazy spiritual experiences. Um, yeah, even like paranormal experiences where I was reading the card that I had pulled after standing in the temple of Hathor, and one of the temple keepers saying, you know, how they guide you sometimes to different parts of the temple, saying, "Come here with me." Just me, grabbed my hands, stood me on one of the skylights where, you know, the light was coming all the way through the ceiling, but then also going through the floor. And so I was standing just directly in this light beam that like went from the sun all the way through my entire body, entered my head, came out my feet because it was the we were on like the second story. And so the light was coming through the skylight above us and then down through the skylight that I was standing over in the floor. And he was like, "You stand here," and just like put me on the light. So I'm standing there on the light. And I just started to have this like really emotional experience. I didn't know what was happening, but I just really had like an emotional release. I started crying, but it was beautiful. But I just thought like I'm so overtired at this point because you know the wake up times if you're doing private visits to temples and stuff is like 3:15 a.m. So I was like, maybe I was just
Yep.
really tired. But then that night we sat in circle and we pulled cards, and I pulled a card that was the Hathor card. And I didn't get a chance to read the description at that time because we had so many things to do. We had to go to bed for the next crazy wake up time. So I didn't get a chance to read it until days later, probably 5 days later. At that point, we're already back in Cairo. We're about to go see the pyramids. And I'm reading the card, and it says, you know, it's all about Hathor, and it talks about this, you know, race of light beings that were called the Hathors and how they came to Earth to help people reach their highest potential. And my roommate was like, "Oh my God, Sam, that's totally you. Like, that's what you do. That's your work." And at all the description of the card said, "Be the light, stand in the light, bask in the light, enjoy the light." It was all about standing in the light, which was crazy because in Hathor's temple, that's what the temple keeper had me do was literally stand in the light. So I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like am I a Hathor?" I asked my roommate this question, and in that moment all the lights cut out in the hotel room. All the electricity cut, and we were like, "What the fuck?" We were freaking out. And so we're like messaging the group like, did the hotel like just have like was it just us? Did it just happen to other people? No one else's lights went out. It was just us. The TV shut off, the lights went out. We're like, that was crazy. So it was,
Wow.
and that was all before we went to the medicine man, and he like took one look at me and he was like, "You were once a priestess of Hathor." And so that was like kind of the final piece of that puzzle, and so many other kind of things throughout that journey of just really reminding me like of the deeper significance that we're speaking about, that you know, maybe before that, I didn't really think like I always knew that my work was spiritual and I always knew that it was important. But I would also have those moments like we were just talking about of like, what are we all doing? We're just like posting on like a social media app and like making money and like helping other people do that. Like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Does this really matter? And so it was that confirmation of like, yeah, it is, there is a deeper thread. Like, it really does matter. So yeah, that was like probably the most wild thing of being in Egypt and just getting that kind of confirmation of like, no, we actually are light workers. And so I think that was the first time that I really was like, oh yeah, like for sure. Like it makes sense that all of us are here. We were all entrepreneurs on that trip. Um, it makes sense that so many women who have come back to the remembering of, you know, who they were meant to be, or these pieces of ancient wisdom that they have woken up to, that they want to share with the collective. It makes sense that they've become entrepreneurs to really like spread, build a business around that, share that with so many other people. And I think about even for myself, when I was originally helping women mostly one on one, like really work on their lives and their mindsets, it felt like there was so much purpose in that work because you could really see like how it was changing someone's whole life, the domino effect of when they change their internal world, they start to really change everything externally. And I would get so much validation from women changing so many aspects of their career, their relationship, their bank accounts, all of it. But then when I moved into more of like the business consulting, there would be times where I wondered if my work was as honorable Like, is it as honorable to help someone make more money as it is to like help someone have a healthier relationship to themselves or to their partner, or coming wanting to come from that heart-centered space, but kind of feeling like maybe it's egoic or like surface level to just be helping people make more money. But I eventually realized, and that was again confirmed for me in Egypt, of like, no, the point is not that we're helping people make more money. It's that we're building an army of all of these women who have awakened to what they're meant to do in this life of raising the collective consciousness. And the more that we can help them with their marketing, with their messaging, with their positioning, the more people they get to reach, the more souls that they get to impact. And their abundance is actually important. Helping people make more money is a worthy cause. It is an honorable line of work because when the right types of people have more money, they do amazing things with it. And so we create a better world when we put resources into the hands of spiritually conscious, heart centered women. So, long winded way of answering that. But
I love that. That's so powerful. And honestly, I was going to ask you, like, where do we make the jump between living your life on purpose and sharing your soul gifts and all of those things, and then money and the importance of money? And I feel like, in so many like ancient spiritual concepts, it's oftentimes like money is not something that you should worry about. And like, you shouldn't charge for money. And like, sometimes it feels like, where does this conditioning come from? But if you go back and read the yogic scriptures, for example, they point blank say that money is the root of all evil and that you shouldn't ask for money in different places. And I just really feel that the world that we live in now, in this present moment, and the world that we're moving into, like, money is so real. It's at the foundation of every other aspect of our lives. So if you want to travel and see the world and have amazing experiences, you need money. If you want to create a business where you're providing opportunities for other people to have an amazing job where they get to, share their gifts with the world, you need money to do that. Like, it's, if you want a beautiful home so that you feel safe and you can provide for your family, like, in the world that we live in modern times, money is the currency that we exchange, and it is so crucial for empowerment and having the power to do the things that you want to do, all of the things that you were saying. And so I'd love to ask you about kind of like strategies that you like to offer up for women who maybe are really connected to their purpose, or they have a seed of an idea. Like, I know I want to share this gift of mine. I know I want to help people in this way, but they're kind of struggling with the financial aspect of it. Maybe they're struggling to scale it to a place where they're actually able to provide for themselves, or maybe they're having a hard time even thinking of an offering to actually allow sales to come in. Like, what's some of your advice that you would give to someone that's sort of in those beginning stages where they have a really beautiful idea that's really aligned for them and really grounded, but they're not really sure how to take that next step to translate it into income?
Mm. Okay, so this might be controversial because as we're talking about, there's a lot of, jargon conversation in the spiritual spaces about how you shouldn't want to be rich, you shouldn't pedestalize money, like you shouldn't love money. Yet we're all writing the affirmation, I love money and money loves me. Um, but there is a formula for wealth. And the truth is that most people aren't following it. And that's why they're not creating the abundance that they truly desire. And partially, the formula for wealth gets blocked by their desire to be a really good person and to do the right thing, or to be the most honorable, or to be the most heart centered, as we were speaking about. Like, is this an honorable cause to help people make more money? So, what I would say to someone is this. The formula for wealth is to find a way to make a lot of money, solve a high value problem for a high caliber client so that you have a real problem that people are actually looking for the solution to, and you can provide that. And it's a high caliber client, meaning that it's someone who has the resources and is willing to pay well for this problem to be solved. Make a lot of money doing that. Then you invest that money into assets to become wealthy. And then when you're wealthy, you can really do whatever you want and you can help whoever you want. And so I think a lot of people have the resistance to this because they're like, well, I don't want to only serve high caliber clients or just look for a high value problem. I want to do this or I want to do that. And of course, there's a way that you can use your gifts to build your business in the most authentic way for you that is going to feel right to you. But that doesn't negate the reality that if you want to make a lot of money, you have to follow the formula for wealth. And spiritual Sarah is going to get all upset because she's like, well, I don't want to do that because I want to help everybody for the lowest ticket, for the lowest price, for whatever. I wanted this to be accessible to everybody. The truth is that your gifts and what you have to share is going to be a lot more accessible to a much wider audience when you have resources. You first have to resource yourself so that you can then help whoever you want in whatever way that you want in any magnitude that you want, right? When you are in overflow, when you have an excess of abundance and financial resources, you can do all the donating that you want. You can work for free. You can donate your time. You can sell things for $1 if you want to because you are well resourced. But if you are struggling and starving and on this hamster wheel of not being able to make it work because you're trying to do the right thing by charging the lowest prices so that you can help everybody, the truth is that you're not helping as many people as you could be helping. You have to get rich first. You have to get well resourced first. And then, you can do whatever you want and help whoever you want in at the largest scale. And so I think, if someone is starting a business, it's really important to remember that although it might feel like a very cute idea to sell something for $20, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to become resource enough for you to go full time in that business, for you to pour all of the attention and energy and resources that you want into that business, and to turn it into like really anything that's big enough to actually make the impact that you were meant to make. And that's why so often we start with these like highly personalized, super valuable, big transformation, higher ticket offerings, because you need to bring resources into the business if you want to help as many people as you want to help. So that's what I would say. I think that's the biggest blindfold that a lot of people are wearing, is that they're trying to start with helping everybody and you just can't.
Yeah, I love that. And I've seen that so many times with, with people and their businesses, and especially in the spiritual space. And you mentioned then in this formula for wealth, investing in assets. And can you break that down a little bit more? Like, what does that actually look like? What does that look like for you in your life? Does that look like buying homes, or does that look like investing in the stock market, or like what specifics as far as investing in assets would you
Yeah.
recommend?
I'll share with you for myself, but I'm not an
Yeah,
investing
yeah.
expert by any means. So not financial advice, girls, just sharing
Yeah.
transparently. So yeah, when we moved back to the US, I wanted to challenge myself to buy my first property and to really actually have an asset that I own. And I know there's a lot of people that prefer to rent, and there's a lot of amazing reasons to rent. Absolutely. It just depends on what you're prioritizing and what you want. But we wanted to buy. So I bought my first home, and we're looking at other opportunities to buy additional real estate for things like, just having investment properties of whether it's
Yeah.
short term rental or long term rental. So, definitely desiring to build more into the real estate portfolio. But mostly it's in, like the stock market through my financial advisors who, I send X amount of money to them every single month and they disperse it and invest it, where they see fit, because I'm not trying to figure out and study the stock market.
Yeah. Same. Same. I'm like,
I'm
do
like,
we all need degrees
delegate.
in like every aspect of our lives at this point? Because it's crazy. Like, I
It
need a
hurts my brain.
nutritional degree. I need like to read every fucking label on everything in the grocery store.
And
I
you need to
need to
now be an
like,
expert on your hormones because, like, no doctor will you believe you about anything. So you basically have to be a doctor. It's crazy.
yeah, you have to be a
Yep.
doctor. You have to be a financial like wizard. You have to understand the stock market. Like, I am just
You have to be a
over it.
lawyer for your business. You have to be a content creator. You have to be a marketer.
As
You have to, like,
Yep.
Yeah. It's
it's a
like,
lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, ChatGPT is coming in and it's like, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But I'm like already the mental fatigue is already there where I don't even want to ask ChatGPT for anything.
No, because
Um,
then ChatGPT sends you down a deep rabbit hole where
yes.
because every time it gives you an answer, it makes another suggestion for something else that it could do for you.
Yes.
Oh my
And you're like,
God.
"Oh, I
It's like,
guess."
would you like this in a breakdown with a spreadsheet? And you're like, okay.
Like, sure, if it's only gonna
5
take you
hours later.
1 second.
5 hours later, I have a whole new skincare regimen planned out for me, a whole new like supplement routine. It's wild.
Yeah, but then, like, I don't and then I'm like, "Okay, in
It's too
chat."
much information. Yeah, you don't
On to the
follow through
next.
with it all.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, yeah, I mean, I love hearing that, formula for wealth because I think in our lives, like, we've had such a successful business from using our human design and really like using our authority with all of our decisions. And it's crazy because like business is so fascinating to me, to both of us, and for all the reasons Dana was sharing before. And it's not something we went to school for, right? Like we did not go to business school and study this whatever what you're supposed to do. And I see so many things on Instagram that are like running my business on pure vibes and whimsy, and I'm like literally. And so yeah, it's really interesting. Like we've grown to multiple seven figures in our business and it feels like it's just so like we just listen to our authority and that's just the way to go. But then there's this whole other side of things where it's like, okay, like are you investing? Are you making smart financial decisions? How are you feeding this back into nurture different things within your own business or within your community or within, like you're saying, getting to then do what it is that you want with however you want to, right? That freedom aspect that I think so many people are desperate for and that are needing. Like when I really think of the pain of the world and of women or anyone who's marginalized or anyone who doesn't have opportunity, it's like that core theme of really wanting freedom, really
Mhm,
wanting liberation. And right now, freedom comes through having money.
mhm.
And so, really finding ways where you can take back that financial freedom. I really see it, the small ways that you can do that and start making big change through human design. But I'm curious if you have any insights or um, w- advice that you give your clients that are like, okay, I have this business idea, but I only have X amount of dollars. Like, is it through marketing? Is it through getting really clear on their message and their brand? Like, I'm really curious what your thoughts are.
I think there's so much power nowadays with the current market in having a personal brand. So, if you want people to care about what you're doing, what you're selling, if you want to enroll people into your mission and your vision, one of the most powerful ways you can do that for free is through social media and actually building a personal brand. It's not a short term strategy, it's definitely a long game. And the market has become a lot more competitive now with the rise of content creation and having literal creators that's their whole job. That's everything that they do is just create the content, and then we're over here, like we just said, being like the finance department, the HR department, the
Hmm.
like doing all of it, and we also have to create content. But I think if someone has limited resources but they want to get their business going, the best thing that you could do for yourself is build a personal brand. So really showing up online consistently, sharing the different parts of your life, sharing your personality, being really authentic, and not being afraid to be polar, because I always say that, to magnetize, you like polarize to magnetize, essentially. Some A magnet is only magnetic because it has those polar opposite ends. And so if you want to really be a magnet for the right people who love what you do and love who you are are invested in not just the product that you're selling today, but the product or service that you might be selling 5, 10, 20 years down the line when you've evolved into 50 different versions of who you are and what you care about and what you want to sell. You need to have a personal brand, and you need to show up by being exactly who you are, knowing what you think, having your opinions and not being afraid to share them. And also, like, if your opinions change, then let people know that they've changed. Like, I think the thing that's holding most people back from actually building successful personal brands so that, again, they can get more visibility and eyeballs to really kickstart that business if they have limited resources is that they're just being really boring. They're just being really, really vanilla. They're really worried about what other people are going to think. They're trying to be so proper. They're showing up online with the presenter hat on. They're acting like they're, on the morning news, like trying to say things perfectly or too scripty. Like, you really do just have to like be your wild, fucking fabulous self. That's really the only way. But yeah, I think if you have limited resources, then like build a personal brand. That's the way.
Mm,
So interesting. And I think
yeah,
it's really
love
interesting
that.
how many people we meet that have resistance against social media. Because to me, I see social media and the algorithm in general being sort of like a reflection of the way that life works. Like you magnetize what's meant for you repel the things that are not meant for you end up seeing a reflection of what you think you're going to see. Like I just feel like the algorithm is
And like
sort of
what you
an
think
amazing.
often, you end up attracting more of. It's like the same thing.
Exactly.
Like the more that you engage with something, the more of that you're going to see.
You're
It
going to
truly
see.
is. It's like,
It's like a metaphor for how life works.
yeah, the universe is an algorithm.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so my question for people is what are you so afraid of with the algorithm and with social media and with showing up authentically? It's just a different version basically of being authentic. And I see so many people who are really able to be authentic in their real life and then they're just like are not able to make that leap and be authentic online, but what they really want deep down is to do that. Because I see other people that don't give a shit about building a personal brand. They don't give a shit about being on social media, and that's genuine for them. And obviously, those people shouldn't do it. But I meet a lot of other people who, like, really deep down, that's what they want. They just have this block because they feel like the algorithm is so harsh and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, really, if you can understand that this is a metaphor for all of life, it's going to only enhance your life and help you break past those limits and actually show up as more of yourself. And like what you, that suggestion of showing up as your complete unscripted authentic self, like it is scary because people are able to troll you online and they're able to comment and message, and you can even have access to like really famous people or whatever a lot more easily than you would in real life. So I get that there's that fear there, but I think that if more people can just show up without giving a shit and just genuinely being themselves, we'll see that that social media creates so many incredible opportunities for us, and it really is something that can expand us. And then it shows us all of these deeper life lessons about how life and the holographic universe, that reflective in nature works anyways.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think like we all have complex relationships with social media because we know that we're spending way too much time on it, but we also know that it's such an incredible tool. And I think it's just like AI, how we were talking about, Shayna was saying, like, why not play with it? Like, this is the way of the current like era that we're in. Like, this is the age of technology. And so I think the more that you resist, the more that you just kind of like hold yourself back. And there's always that feeling of resistance when something is like totally new or scary. But I also think, like, to your point, Dana, of people worrying about like what other people are going to think or being canceled or the backlash or comments that they might receive. I think that that can be a very real fear, like the fear of like visibility for sure. But I also think there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily afraid of that, and they still find it hard to be authentic online because it's not natural to put yourself in front of a camera and be like, I'm just going to be my natural. Like, as soon as a camera comes out, it's only natural that you start to like feel like you're in performance mode, like you're supposed to like,
Mhm.
you know, present for the show. Like it feels like you're on a stage, which is a very sort of like weird feeling. So also just want to like validate anyone who's like, I'm not really afraid of like the comments, but like I want to be authentic. I'm trying to be authentic. I think I am being authentic. But then at the same time, there's people in my real life that are like, no, you're way funnier. You're way more crass. You're way more sarcastic. You're way more whatever in person. And it's like, damn, like, how do I showcase more of like who I actually am in the real world online? And it's hard. I think it only happens through practice. because it's just not natural to like prop a camera up and then just like act as if it's not there.
Yeah.
Right. I know. It's so funny how even when you film your dog or like Shayna's daughter, who's only 10 months old, my dog literally wakes up from a slumber knowing that my camera is filming her. It's like she has like a sixth sense and even she feels uncomfortable and she's a dog.
There must be like an energetic frequency to
I
like
mean,
something
Totally.
filming you because it's even I'll
literally.
share like with the podcast, we started doing video podcasts. So I have there's a barrel of a camera like staring down my face right now. And when I do solo episodes, it has definitely become more challenging to like channel or to
Mhm.
just like riff or to just let myself flow or to like take a pause and like get like I used to feel so much more fluid when it was just me in my bathrobe with a mic because no one was
Mm.
looking at me. Like I think it's just so true that like when a camera is on, it changes the energy. So it's a practice for all of us. So anyone who's listening, like I want to be more authentic online, like girl, same. Like we all do.
I
It's
mean, it's
hard. Like it's
literally
practice.
like if you wanna go there, it's like a practice for the whole universe because, like, if you as you were sharing that, I'm like, that's literally the double slit theory of, like, when you
When
know,
you're being
shine
observed,
when you're being observed, they act
you
differently,
act
like,
one
they go
way.
through 2 slits and it's, like, 2 lines, but then it's being observed, whatever, it's a wave and then it's 2 lines when it's observed, like, I'm not a fucking scientist, but the double slit theory, like, once the observer is on, you're almost putting on a show, like you're acting differently because you know you're being watched. And so like we all exist because of that. And now we're having this like reflection, like Dana's saying, of it in our real life. And it's like kind of zooming out and it's reflected to us with social media, with having a camera. I definitely resonate with that. Like when we had our podcast
Same.
before and we weren't doing video, it was like so easy. And then when we introduced video, I was like,
So
oh,
fun, so chill.
weird, but then now I, like, just don't give a fuck at all, about how I look,
Practice.
about, like, anything, but it's like I had to get to that point, but then still on my phone or if, like, a friend is filming me, I feel that sense of like, "Oh, shit, I have to put on Brian says my camera face." And so I'm like, "Oh, okay." I can't get there yet, in those moments. So I do think like there are different mediums where it's like, okay, just start somewhere, right? Like just start where it feels the easiest for you right now. Maybe that's on, Reddit, maybe that's on TikTok, maybe that's on a podcast without camera. Like just start somewhere where it feels the most authentic and then just keep easing into that stretching that comfort zone, I want to say. But yeah, as you were sharing that, I'm like, You better be a voice for the universe and how it feels with like, I don't know what it is about them watching me, but I feel like I have to act differently. Like that's literally all of energy right now. But yeah, I'm I'm loving talking to you. I love these yap sessions, like you said in the beginning, like,
So
"Let's
good.
yap." I'm like, "Okay, great. That's easy for us." Um, but I know that you also have so much to offer people and help them to really see results and grow in their current business or even getting started with a business. So I'm curious, where can people find out how to work with you? What's your favorite way to work with clients, like in general? And yeah, where should they go from here?
So good. Such a good question. Thanks for asking. You guys can find me mostly on Instagram at underscore Samantha Daily. And if you're curious about working together, my favorite way to work with clients is through my masterminds. We have one for more beginners in business who are just getting started and wanting to build a personal brand and kind of learn the ins and outs of a digital education style business. And then I also have a higher level mastermind for women who are in the six figure land and really wanting to scale and grow their businesses and step more into like that leader frequency and master what I call $1 million messaging, really hone their marketing. So those are my favorite places because we get to get on weekly calls, go really deep. There's a lot of like sisterhood and community. It's just like my favorite way to learn and commune. So I love the masterminds. But yeah, there's lots of other ways, but definitely check out the podcast. You can listen to the episode with Shayna and Dana. It was so good. So check us out on Makeshift Happen Podcast. You can find it everywhere: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the places. And send me a DM if you just want to connect and chat. I'd love to get to know you guys. So shoot me a DM on Instagram.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us and coming on today. And yeah, I'm loving this little Hathor priestess party. that,
So
that-
good.
yeah, I was
We've
not a priestess at Hathor, but I definitely was at Hatshepsut. I don't know if you went there when you were
Oh, I
in
don't think we
Egypt.
went to that one.
Oh my gosh. The second time that I just went, it's like was so confirmed for me. Like I almost could see how it was when I was there. It was
Wow.
just insane. But yeah, I'm loving you two little Hathor babies.
Me and
Um,
Dana, we've lived together in a past life, probably.
yes.
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 Yes. Awesome. Well, I'm curious to ask you, Sam, at the end of this, is there anything else on your heart that you're just feeling called to share with anyone listening? Like, I guess in this whole round, just anything that you're wanting, final words, parting words.
I'll just share something that I say often, which is you don't have to sell harder. You just have to live bigger. So if you are someone who's struggling to realize your mission in the world and wanting to make more money, make more sales, whatever it is, always remembering that the harder you try to push and force and try to get certain results of I'm going to post this thing so that I can get someone to buy. When you're in that energy of really trying to sell harder, just remember that instead of selling harder, you just have to live bigger. You are the magnet. So when you step out into the world and you live and you move in a way that activates people, that inspires people, you'll be able to enroll so many more people into your vision of what you're doing and what you're creating. And so it really does matter that you take that seriously and you get out into the world and you live your life and like you explore and you live for the plot. Like my whole life is a testament to like doing it for the story. That's what I always told myself when I went on the first date with my fiance. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it for the story. If you start living that way, you will become so magnetic to so much magic. So don't sell harder, live bigger.
Mm, I
I
love
love
that.
that.
Doing it for the
So beautiful.
story.
Do it for the story, for the plot,
Doing it
girlies.
for the plot.
I love it. And live bigger and let people see it and get comfortable being uncomfortable as people watch you, because
Hell
the
yeah.
more you do that, the more comfortable you are and the more magnetic you are and the more you're living life on purpose and magnetizing everything that's meant for you. So I love that so much. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been so fun. I feel like I could talk to you forever. So I'm really grateful that you came on and shared your wisdom and your amazing story with us. It's been such a treat.
Thank you guys so much. It's been such an honor.
I loved that conversation with Sam. And I feel like we could just keep chatting. Like we had to, after this recording, we had to like, okay, let's wrap this up because we could just chat all night. I love a little girl party, slumber party vibes, as you know, spiritual sleepover kind of deal. But per usual, you know where you can find us on our Instagram at DayLuna, on our website, daylunalife.com. And yeah, come hang out with us in Besties. Come learn human design if you're really feeling called. We have our training. And what else do we have? Oh my gosh, we have a lot of new things we're creating. So stay tuned. I almost just blew the lid off on what those are, but we will be announcing them soon. So stay tuned. We love you. And we are sending you so much expansion and joy and doing it for the plot kind of vibes because that's what we're here for. Literally, we're here for the plot. That's why we chose to incarnate. So do it, live it, play with the story. It's yours to create. We're sending you so much love. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.